Just so the other students can benefit from this. Okay. Okay, yes, I am recording. Okay, so here it is. So this is the device. That's a super class, as we said, no constructor, just a serial number. And I have an exception that I already mentioned to you guys, regular exception. And I have two classes that inherit from it. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. I have the public class TV set that extends device. This is linking my TV class with the device. It's saying, hey, a TV set is a device. Okay. Now it has its own serial number, but if I didn't have it, then it will just grab the one from the device. In this case, it has its own, so it's overriding that. It's just saying I have my very own serial number. Okay, and you saw that something similar in your in the car vehicle example that I gave in the class, right? This is just so brand new. I just started it this morning. Okay, so in this one, I have a toString method. Notice that this one has a toString method, but if we go into device.java, this one doesn't have a toString method. Okay, now device in this particular example is kind of silly to actually be inheriting from device because I don't have anything in device. And the whole point of inheriting from some, extending a class is that that class has a lot of functionality that I don't want to rewrite. Okay, so in this case, I'm just making it, keeping it as simple as possible, but I want you to see how it links and how it behaves as I compile the code and it links with one another. Okay, so but that will be ideally a lot of the functionality, the most of the functionality will be in my device. Okay, so let me go back to my TV set. If you guys have any questions, let me just I'll in a minute, I'll stop the recording. I'll see if you guys have any questions and then continue. That way you're not in the recording, okay? So let me just go back here and I'm saying that the TV set extends device, okay? As I said, I have my own serial number and I have a constructor in here. Now, I know that device doesn't have a constructor, so whenever I want to create a TV set, it's going to actually go ahead and use this constructor. Okay, this one also has a toString method, which the original device doesn't have. Okay, and before I look into questions, I am going to compile this thing and see if it's still working. Okay, yeah, it's accepting my extends device. So now let's go into computer set in here. And again, it extends the device. It has an instance variable. Oops, it's just like this. Let's make it private. Okay, if you see anything like that I do, please let me know. And I am just declaring here another, the constructor. Notice that as opposed to this TV set, where it's only passing the number, my computer set actually is validating that number. It's saying, hey, I want you to validate it using the set number, right? Sending the serial number. And I actually check that the number is greater than 0. And otherwise, I send an exception. I create an exception. Notice then that even though both TV set, as you see it here, and the computer set that you see right here, they both inherit from device. Each one of them can behave actually quite differently, right? They have different methods. There is a toString in here. There is no toString in here. So that's where we are. Now, oops, I stopped the share instead of, okay. Hold on, I am going to go back here. No. I'm gonna, okay. So I continue recording. Okay, so here, as you can see, then again, just verifying. Okay, so as you see, they are different things. Now I'm going to compile this guy, okay, my computer set, and make sure that it actually works. Can you still see the screen? Yes, you can. Okay. So I then created a test.java, which is going to be my writing, my testing. Okay. So let's try different things. And I can't even remember what I was doing. I was just playing around. So let's do this. I'm going to take this out. This one I don't need. So I created this one. Okay, we'll go over this one in a minute. I'm gonna say TV set. Okay, so this is my test, my driver class. Okay, so this doesn't even know who's linked to what is extended by what. No, it's just saying, okay, a TV set, TV is going to create a new TV set and it sent this number. Let me see if the TV set still accepts. Okay, yeah, the TV set takes an integer and just passes it as a serial number. So that's what this does. Okay, then I'm going to print the TV to string, right? Then I create a computer set with this number, and the computer set is right here, takes a serial number. This actually validates it, right? And then it prints it. Now, we already asked, and John already told us that if I try to print something to string, when I do not have a to string method, it's just going to print a memory location. So let's see that in action. So let's compile this guy. Okay, and let me go to running here and clear this part. And let's run this guy. So there you go. So the TV has a toString method. There it is. Nice, right? The computer, however, doesn't have a toString method. So now we have an issue. Now, what would you guys like to do? Would you like to see what we can do if we actually have, there is one important thing that I wanted to show you before I move on to other things. Device in here doesn't have a constructor, right? And I believe the example that I gave you does not have a constructor either. So what happens if I actually add a constructor into device? Okay, there is a few things that are gonna happen, and for instance, it may not compile. So let me go back and copy this code that I already had prepared here for us. And I'm gonna put it right in here. Let's see. Okay, so now there is a constructor. Okay, so I have a device. Let's make it pretty. So I have my device and I have my serial number, and I have a constructor that takes it, and look at this. It's not even validating it. Okay, but it's there. Okay, I'm not going to argue about validation now. I'm trying to keep it simple. Okay, so now device has that. Now I'm going to compile device and see what happens. So when I compile device, everything looks okay. Okay, fine. But now I am going to go into one of these guys that actually inherits from device. I'm going to go into the TV set. Okay, notice that I have a constructor in here. Okay, so I have a constructor in here, but it's a TV set constructor. It has a different name from device, right? And I know that if device doesn't have a constructor, I can have a constructor in TV set because it compiled and run. But let's try this one. Uh-oh. So what happens in here? It says a lot of stuff. Constructor device in class device cannot be applied to given types, and damn. Okay. So it's like, wait a minute, what happened, right? I mean, it's extending, but this guy has the constructor, so isn't that supposed to override the other constructor? What's going on? Okay, how would I fix this? Because this is an issue now I cannot compile. Let me go back and see what happens with the computer set, which also has that, and you saw that it compiled before, right? And now let me try and let's clear this thing, and let's try to compile this guy, and oh my God, it's giving me kind of the same error, right? So basically what it's saying is you are inheriting from device, so either use device or specify that you want to use a different constructor. Who would say that? Let's go in here in test. Okay, I'm going to clear this. I'm going to compile test. That one is still going. But this guy is not going. Look at that. So the other one is kind of okay, but this guy is saying, hey, I cannot really extend that. So what would be a solution for this? Because I actually wanna either use this. Okay, there is two things. You can either use this constructor, or you can actually use the constructor from your superclass, meaning device. Okay, So those are your two options, and it depends on what you actually want to do with your code. Why would choose you would choose one or choose the other. So I have one of the solutions in here. Okay, I'm going to copy here, and I am going to actually do this. Comment that one out and write this one. And I actually wanted to write this one in here because I see that many times my students use super and they don't really know what they are doing. They go online, they see, oh, I can use super, and they just put it in there and it works and they have no idea what's happening, okay? But basically what happens in here is that you're saying, okay, I wanna create a TV object, right? I'm getting a parameter, and instead of doing anything myself, I am just gonna call my parent class, in this case, device, and I am going to send that parameter. Look at this, it's the same parameter that I have in here. I am sending in here, and I am gonna send that into device. So it's coming in here, the S, you know, the S is coming in here, and then it does the thing, it uses that, right? And so it's gonna be using that, the other constructor, the constructor from the parent class. Look at this. So I'm gonna compile this guy, and I don't get that complaint anymore, okay? And if you notice what I was trying to do here, particularly in this case, it was exactly what it's been doing here. So, okay, and usually, typically, that's why we are extending a particular class, because we're thinking of doing kind of the same thing, right? So once I call that, then I am okay, right? I can now do this. Now let's take a look at computer set. Now let's take another solution in this one, right? Because if I compile this one, it's gonna give me that error, right? So I told you I have two solutions. One, when you grab this, but there is another way of doing that. And what I can do here, let's try to do this. Let's see what happens if I grab my constructor and I take it out. So if I don't have a constructor in this particular class and it's extending from device, think about it, you know, where will that constructor, where will this object be built? If it's extending from device, will this be built within, you know, is it gonna call my parent class? Is it gonna call the object class?
Wouldn't it look until it found a constructor, and if it didn't find one, it would just use the object classes?
Right. And who are you? Oh, hold on. Don't say who you are, because I'm recording. You tell me later. Okay. But yes. That's what it's going to do. So it's going to look, and Java, remember, I always like to mention that Java is lazy. Java starts looking where you are, and if it finds something, it does it. If it grabs it, whatever it finds faster, that's what it's going to grab. If it doesn't find something in there, then it goes one layer up and up, and eventually it gets to object. Okay, but that's its last resort because it's lazy. Okay, so let's compile this guy. Okay, it says it's still complaining. It's telling me that, wow, you know, it's saying that cannot be applied to given type. So it's still not happy about extending device. Okay, and notice that it's all about that. And I can't remember what solution I got this, because it's supposed to go and grab up there, but I could potentially, oh, no, because my solution was actually this. Either I called super, or I take the constructor out of here. But before we do any of that, let's compile my test and see what's happening. Okay, so now let's take a look. I am getting an error here because it's telling me that I am trying to create a computer set and I'm giving it a parameter. And if I go to computer set, oops, there is no constructor. So if I'm trying to give it a parameter, right, that means, and it's not grabbing it it's not going into the device as I was expecting, because Java is lazy and I know that it's going to go to whatever is the closest thing before it moves into the object. So let's see if it will go and create a computer set without any of this. Let's try this. Ah, okay. So now it's saying in here that cannot be applied to given type. There is no arguments. I still need to connect my class with the class that I am extending. It's not going to allow me, as you can see, and please play with it, okay? It's not allowing me to either just create and call from object, because between the computer set class and the object, I still have the device class. So I have to acknowledge it to somehow make a stop in there, but I need to guide Java into actually doing that. Okay, so what I need to do in here is the same, sort of the same thing that I did with my TV set. I can either create myself a, oh, let me try that. I can actually create my own, have my own constructor, or specifically call for that constructor to be there. Now, the issue that is causing all these issues with constructor, A, do I need to have my own? A, do I need to call super to actually get that constructor to work? Is that I have a constructor in the superclass. If your superclass doesn't have a constructor, which is the simplest way, is exactly what I show you in the class. That's the simplest kind of inheritance. If it doesn't have a constructor, then all of these problems that I am showing you about how to call the constructor and where the constructor is gonna grab the instance variables and what it's gonna do, those things don't happen, because every single subclass is going to have its own constructor, and it's going to actually create an object with its own constructor, and it has nothing to do with the superclass. So the easiest way to avoid all this is if you don't have a constructor in your superclass. But I want you to know that if you have one, there is ways around it. And the first one is to officially call it, right? Mostly if device, in here device is not doing anything, but let's say in device I have the set methods that actually validate every single variable. And let's say your constructor takes 20 variables, okay? And everyone has very detailed validation strategies. Then what you do is just send everything to the superclass and have it validated. You don't need to rewrite it here. But you cannot just assume that it's going to do it. You actually need to officially call it and put the super and say, go to that one and use that particular constructor to do what I need to do. Okay? So you need to officially call it. And the main reason why I wanted to say this about calling with super is because a lot of students do that with array lists and other things. And I will bet that they don't know what they are doing, but it works, so they do it. But that's why, because you're officially calling that. And then you would know that it will work. If it has no parameters, it's because your superclass has no parameters. If it has 2 or 3 parameters, it's because your superclass actually has those parameters. Otherwise, it's not gonna do it. So I'm gonna pause my recording, and I want to know if there is any questions, because I know this is like weird. So I'm gonna put my recording, and I'm gonna go back here into my computer set and look at that. I am going to take this out, and in here I have this one that I am not going to use, but instead of doing that, I am going to also be calling my constructor super with serial number, right? So now when I compile it, so it's calling that other constructor, same one as the TV, right? Is calling it, and they both are grabbing the constructor here for the device. Okay, so I tried something different. Let me see if, let me go into my test and let's compile this guy. Oh, okay. It's not going to work because now I'm missing the parameter. Okay. Let's compile. Okay, so now I have my 2 things, and if I run it, one actually prints nicely, the other one doesn't. If I put the toString method, actually, let's try that. I'm going to grab the toString method. Let's see. I'm going to take it out of here. I'm going to steal your toString method. Oh, well, actually, I could, but You can do that when you do it. I don't want to change, otherwise I'll have to change. Okay, I'll do that. Make a decision, Blanca. Okay, so I'm going to go to device and I'm going to make the string method here. And I'm going to put instead TV set, I'm going to say device. Okay, so I'm going to compile this guy. This.serial num. Cannot find symbol means your variable has not been declared, so most likely. Okay, so here we go. Now our device in here, remember TV set doesn't have a toString. Computer set, oh, now computer set doesn't have it either, right? Okay, none of them. Okay, so I'm gonna go to test.java and then I'm gonna compile this guy and run it. So now you see it prints both of them. But I'm going to make a change here in my computer set. I'm going to actually copy the toString method for the computer, and I'm going to change these to computer. Computer serial number. Okay, so that you see that when I print the computer, it's going to go to the computer one, to the computer method, as opposed to going to the other one because Java is lazy, right? So let's compile my test again. And I'm going to run it here. And you see it went to get the serial here. Ooh, my serial number is 0. Why is that? Oh, I know why. Okay, but I want you to know, I want you to tell me. In here, I created my computer set with a number, right? And as you saw in here, when both of them were using the same method, I got the number correct. But now, I'm not. Computer serial number is supposed to get my serial number,